The grotesques have been on the building since 1903 for 118 years. It was obvious how much erosion had occurred. So we decided to take them down, to preserve them for history. And we received proposals for resculpting the grotesques.
They knew they had to replicate them to restore the facade because they had already undertaken the restoration project on the facade of the whole building.
The original carvings were made out of cottonwood and limestone, and even the fact that we reused the same type of limestone was very important to the project.
Limestone, the material itself is millions and millions of years old. And it's the deposition of life itself. I mean, it is bones and shells. It's one big chunk of bones and shells. My job is to rough them out. What you see, what I carve is kind of chunky and blocky. And that's done on purpose, and then as you go in, you facet it a little bit, and pretty soon you're getting all the curves and all the detail in. You can take more off, but you can't put it back on. It was a little daunting, to say the least. We put in our proposal, and I think one of the things that made our proposal stand out is that we wanted to do a lot of outreach in the carving process. And that's a little why I set up right here in front of the museum. It's students and faculty. Now they drive by and they go, "Hey, Carl, what's up?" And a kindred spirits, I think. The truth is, there's only one sculptor. You can have any number of helpers, but there's one person, and that person is Laura. That these are her pieces that she is putting her soul into, and any help that I can give her, that's the help I'm trying to give her.
I knew like two things when I was a little girl. I knew I loved horses, and that I wanted to be an artist. But it wasn't until I came to KU and took a sculpting class. The teacher, Poco Fraser, said, I think you could be a great sculptor. And I said, what? They take a long time to carve, so I have a long time to be thinking about things. Maybe I'm thinking of stories, maybe I'm thinking of other works of art, maybe I'm just thinking of the attitude of a lion, how it sits. It's almost as if these things are alive and move around a little bit. I use an air hammer, so I liken it to Bob Dylan plugging in. You're still making music by hand, it's just a different instrument. It's been very helpful to get a scale model, so there was some 3D imaging and a 3D print made, and it was made at 1/4 scale.
There must be a way that we can do this that's cheaper. There must be a way that's easier and more accessible. And so I got into the idea of photogrammetry, which is like 3D scanning based off of photos, using multiple photos, and then 3D printing. Now we have an exact replication of it. So we would do the scan of an object, 3D print it, and then make a silicone mold and then cast plaster in it for these replicated details.
cottonwood limestone carries very specific fossils that are sort of a signature to this region. And those fossils show and express themselves in different ways in the stone. And so choosing that is also, again, symbolic about Kansas and the kind of limestone that we mine here, the kind of animals that lived here millions of years ago, which ultimately feeds into what the museum does.
In some areas, like in some of these, when you look at them, they'll be missing kind of a layer of a layer. So that's when
Keith and I, yeah, we're both KU alums, and I actually remember very, very distinctly thinking how beautiful Dyche Hall was when I was a student here. I just remember thinking that it was just an inspiring building in so many ways, and the stone carving was so beautiful. And I remember looking at the grotesque and wanting to figure out their meaning even then. So to come back 20 years later and get to work on this project, and as I pitched it to the students, you know, this is going to be the project that when your children come here, you're going to point to the grotesque and say, that's what I worked on when I was a student, and you'll always have a connection to this building.
There's no question that Louis Lindsay Dyche, who was, after whom the building is named, was passionate even back in 1903 about conserving the animals and plants and the biodiversity on Earth. And I think the grotesques are a symbol of the sanctity and the guarding of that knowledge for the future. What I think Laura and Carl have done is create what will become, and what in fact is now, a new unique cultural treasure for the country, for Kansas, and for the university.